It starts from the inside. You change your internal state and then the outside changes. It's not like you've been taught like you need to do more, you need to be more, you need to have more, and then you'll change how you feel or how you see the world. Uh-uh. Flip it. It's flipped. By changing your internal state, you change your external reality. I've got this, which I've been delving deep into in the last months from Neville Goddard and his book, The Power of Awareness. I'm going to dive into that deeper in this episode. But first of all, I want to welcome you to the Conscious Manual, where I help you to love yourself so you can love your life and actually create the reality and live it that you want to have. The book that I'm talking about here, The Power of Awareness, it's a small book from Neville Goddard, who was a law of assumption teacher back in the 1940s, 1950s. The law of assumption states that whoever you assume to be, you will become. But before you get there, you need to have a certain level of awareness of your internal state right now. Who you are being, who you are, what you are thinking, what is going on inside of you. Because you can't change who you are when you don't know who you are. And that's not about like, I'm a father, I work that job, I have those hobbies. That's not who you are. What's going on inside of you? How are you feeling? What are your habitual thoughts? That's step one towards having your external reality the way you want it. To become aware of who you are. And from there on, you can change your self-concept. Your self-concept is how you see yourself. It's who you are being on a daily basis, on a consistent basis. And your self-concept dictates everything around it. It's like the basis, the foundation. And that's why I'm hammering all in this podcast and all my episodes, self-love is the key. Because when you love yourself, your self-concept is so high that you actually don't need to create that external reality. That it becomes a bonus because you have everything you want inside of you. Your self-concept is on a level where you are seen by yourself, where you are needed by yourself, where you give yourself what you want. In the books of Neville Goddard, around the law of assumption, a lot of key points always come back, which I want to emphasize in this episode and summarize it and put them together. One of them is that you assume you are the person now you want to be. You're assuming it, and you're making assumptions already all the time. When you're meeting someone new, you haven't talked to them for a second. You're already making assumptions based on the way they look, the way they're clothed, the way you hear them speak, or the energy that they're emitting. You're making an assumption. You can do the same for yourself. You assume yourself already to be the person that you want to be. And your self-concept is high, and now we're having fun with this. We can have everything we want as a bonus. So when you assume yourself to be that person, you are being that person, then you step into that version now before it actually manifests in the external reality. To assume it before it comes. And like I said, you already know how to do it. You do it constantly. I do it constantly. I had a conversation yesterday about like judgment and assumptions. It comes like naturally. It's how the human brain is trained. But what do you do then with that assumption? So now you already assume yourself to be that successful version of you, that healed version of you, a version of you that already has a loving partner. Fill in the blanks, whatever your reality is, it's your creation. Because an assumption, although false, or even if you don't believe it, an assumption, although false, persisted upon, will harden into fact. Because when you assume it and you repeat it to yourself, and you practice this new version of you, it will seep into your subconscious, and your subconscious will take this new program as reality. And you will slowly start to change, or fast, however your speed is. You will actually start to walk different. You'll sound different. People will come to you like, did you do something with your hair? Did you do something? But it's just a new version of you that you literally stepped into. You want to change your wardrobe. This will happen naturally. Second one that Neville Goddard emphasizes is your mental diet. What goes in also goes out. When I rehearsed this, it sounded wrong. But now you get what I mean. What you put in your head will manifest in your external reality. What you put on repeat. Oh no, that presentation I have tomorrow is going to go so bad, and my boss is going to be upset, and I'm so nervous, and I always fuck it up. Yeah, you're creating your reality like that. You are not paying attention to your mental diet. You're not aware. And you become aware of your internal state, of your thoughts, of your mental diet. You can change them. Just like in the past, like my example, for instance, most of my life I was eating junk food, a lot of sugar, a lot of soda, until I changed that. And I was forced to it because I had an incurable gut disease, which I actually cured. That's food for another episode. Food. Can you see what I did there? And then I changed my diet and my food style, which I prefer to call it, to actually nurture my body. It's the same what I did with my mental diet. When unwanted thoughts come up, I reframe them with wanted thoughts. And also just observe them. Like the example with the presentation. Oh, I can't do this. I'm so nervous and my boss will think I'm a loser. Oh, no, wait a minute. I can actually do this. I'm a proficient speaker. My boss will be proud of me, even if you don't believe it, because an assumption persisted upon, an assumption persisted upon, will harden into fact. But you need to make sure that your mental diet is on point, because every time a thought slips by you, it's adding more sugar, more fuel to the wrong fire. You want to create a new fire, a fire that's actually nurturing you instead of being a destructive one. It's going to be one that feels warm and nurturing and like wholesome. Like in the middle of winter. That's your mental diet that you need to pay attention to. What's going on inside here, inside your head. What this is also about is living in the end. You're not manifesting in between results. For instance, you have $10 in your bank account. You want to manifest $100. And you're like doing all these in between steps. I know some of the other manifestation teachers do this, like in between steps. Whatever works for you, I don't do that. And also, Neville Goddard, he suggests to live in the end already. So to imagine the person, assume the person to be, and also imagine that already lives in your villa, has all the freedom, has a perfect body, has a beautiful relationship, however perfect looks for you. Because remember, you are perfect thanks to your imperfections. That's why I hesitated when I said the perfect body. You are perfect thanks to your imperfections. You love yourself when you look in the mirror, however you look like, however you feel like. It's all part of you, so it's all welcome. And by living from the end, you already put yourself in that person's position and pull it in the now. Because all realities exist right now. As Neville also said, creation is finished. What does he mean by that? That all realities already exist in this moment. You don't need to create a new life, you need to actually attract it. Like I said in the beginning, it's your internal state. You don't need to do more, you don't need to have more, you don't need to be more. You need to be yourself. That other version of you, now. Not of like, I will be, I am. Not one day, I am. It's all about awareness, presence, in the now. Because you are living in the end now. You're pulling the future in the present moment. You're not working towards something, you are being that person now. And imagination is your biggest tool for this. Because you actually change your consciousness. You're imagining the person that you want to be now. And your subconscious does not know the difference between something that's actually happening and something that you're imagining. That's like when men get kicked in the balls, they actually feel it. Their body, I can feel it. Men can feel that because the subconscious think it's happening to them or to me. So when you're assuming or imagining that version to be, when you close your eyes and you're imagining yourself in that scene, your subconscious will think it's actually happening and has no other choice than to fulfill that image in the external reality. You actually change your level of consciousness in that moment. Every single time you do this. You change who you are. And by doing this practice of imagination, you shut the door to the senses. What does it mean by that? You close your eyes and you ignore the outside world. But your inside world becomes the most important thing. You focus all your attention there. What's happening around you in your life at that moment does not matter because you are creating yourself anew in that moment. You shut the door. When you close the door, your eyes are closed. That's the door that's closing. You have a blank slate. You can create anything and anyone that you want to be. And that's how the subject, yourself, creates the object, the external, instead of the other way around. When you think that the object, your grinding and the work and everything, creates your internal state, your happiness and how you're feeling. No. Your internal, the subject, creates the external, the object. Now there are also several techniques that you can practice to get this more into an embodied state. Now, I want to say this as a disclaimer. You're always manifesting 24/7. When you look around your life, and this might be hard to hear, everything that you see and everybody that's in your life and however you're feeling, you have manifested. And you can hear this and go in a victim mode like, oh, what? I didn't want that. I didn't want that. How the hell did I manifest that? Well, it's true. But the empowered version of that is, oh, wow. Okay, so there are stuff that I manifest that I actually didn't want. But now that I hear that I am the creator of my life, I can do something about it. I can take the wheel of the ship, of the car, of my life, instead of being a passenger, having no clue, floating around. So these techniques are just to like to reel yourself in and focus. Are just techniques. Whatever works for you. There's like a million manifestation techniques, and I'm going to share 3 here, which Neville talked about. But remember that you are manifesting 24/7. So all of these points, your mental diet, the way you are being, how you assume yourself to be, that is who you are 24/7. So you can do all the techniques, but as soon as you go into the real world again, the real world, because your inner world is actually the real world. So when you go into let me call that the imagined world, the external, and you behave like the old self, you're going to get more of the old. You need to keep up your state, your new state of being, your new changed consciousness. You leave behind the old you, the old personality, and you put on the vest of the new personality that creates the personal reality. Now, the first technique that Neville actually talks about quite often in his books is SATS, which is state akin to sleep. This is a state that you're naturally in, right after you wake up and right before you go to bed, when you're still in that drowsy state, when you're actually still in the theta brainwave, which is the state right before falling asleep, right after waking up. You have the beta brainwave is when you're walking around in life, alpha when you're more relaxed, and then theta and deep meditations. That's going deep straight into your subconscious. That is the ideal time to imagine, to practice your imagination, to practice this new way of being. What is important here is that you think from that person, not think of it. What do I mean with that? You can have a visualization or imagine yourself in a certain scenario where you actually see yourself from an outsider perspective. So you see the scene, but you are outside of it. Then you're thinking of it, you're thinking about it. It's not you, it's something in the future. What I'm saying is that you think from it, that you actually are that person in your imagination. So whatever you're visualizing, you see yourself in that scene. You are using the eyes of that person in that scene, of yourself in a loved embrace with your loved one, in your mansion, hugging your kids, giving a keynote speech. You're actually standing there while you're laying on your bed, while you're sitting on your cushion, because the doors to the senses are shut. While you're still in your own space, right here in this reality, in your internal reality, you are somewhere else. And that is more important. But you need to think from it, through the eyes of that person, because that's the new version of you. So state akin to sleep is the first one, where you talk straight into your subconscious. Now, what I also practice sometimes, well, quite often actually, is called the lullaby method. You also do that right before you go to bed, where you basically state an affirmation over and over and over again. And you basically have a lullaby when you go and drift off to sleep. This makes then, it's like a loop that you're creating in your mind that keeps on repeat during the whole night. Like a lullaby when you sing to your kids or something. And make it an easy one, a short one, where you can, don't have to think about it, but it can just go on repeat. And that is similar to loop affirmations during the day, where you're doing the dishes or you're brushing your teeth or you're walking somewhere, and you're having loop affirmations in your mind going all the time. I have a set timer that I put on 10 minutes a day where I focus and I say 1 or 2 affirmations for 10 minutes straight. And that's like all I'm thinking about, like repeating them in my mind, or you can also do it aloud, whatever works for you. And this repetition makes it seep through in your subconscious, because an assumption persisted upon will harden into fact. Repetition is the love language to the subconscious. While the lullaby method is right before you go to bed, loop affirmation you can basically do during the day. And you're already having a lot of thoughts, like when you're sitting in traffic, you can practice loop affirmations. On that note, you can also make subliminals, which Neville doesn't talk about. I don't think that actually existed. Yeah, there wasn't technology or whatever. We're not advanced as these days. A subliminal is a subliminal message, a message that the conscious mind can't hear, which goes straight to the subconscious. Like I've heard of in movie scenes back in the days where there's like the snippets of Coca-Cola being seen in a cinema, cinema, in the theaters. In the theaters, where it was that short and fast that the conscious mind couldn't see it, but it was trickling in straight into the subconscious. That's also a subliminal message that made that a lot of people all of a sudden were craving Coca-Cola, and they went to get some. Which is sneaky and disgusting in my eyes, but whatever. You can use that in your advantage as well. What I do, I have affirmations that I play during the night in a subliminal tone. So I can't hear what's being said, but it's going, whatever is being said, whatever affirmation is going, it's going straight to my subconscious. There are free apps to do that. I have a paid app that's called MindZoom, where I created my own subliminals. There are also tons of subliminals on YouTube. I would suggest to do your research on that you don't have subliminals going or affirmations seeping into your subconscious that you actually don't want. But the beauty of this is that you don't have to do anything. You just listen to the tape. You can also use it during the day. I wouldn't use it while driving or while machinery using or whatever. But you don't have to actually actively do something. You can just walk around and your subconscious does all the work. To round this all up, remember that you have the key in your hands. The power is within you. When you become aware of who you are being, you can change who you are now. You assume to be that new version. You pay attention to being that version constantly. Or when you fall off, you put yourself back on the horse. You practice being in the shoes of that new version, and then, by definition, there's no other way than that you become that version. You become them first before the external reality changes. And the speed of when all of that happens depends entirely on how much and how deliberate you can stay in that state all the time or most of the time. And remember to have fun with this. Don't be hard on yourself. Like, oh shit, I had a bad thought again. Bad thought. There are no bad thoughts. Now, my manifestation is going to take another week. Just go with it. You have 70,000 thoughts. If you can manage most of them, then you're doing a great job. And then you will become more and more proficient at this until you don't have to consciously do something about it, because this is going straight in your subconscious and it's taken over. You have become that new person, and that person then has all the desired thoughts that you want, and those thoughts lead to actions and to feelings that you actually want to have and want to experience. To assume that new person. to be right now. I wish you all the best with this. Remember that you are epic. Ciao, ciao.